We are back on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. We'll shift gears here and talk a little bit of OTAs. They started on Tuesday. We will be out there today for the first time. 10 OTA practices, of course, in the mandatory mini camp in the middle of June. Ashley Bastock, Scott Patsko with me now. Scott, why don't you start us off? What are you watching here in our kind of condensed glimpse at Browns OTAs?
I feel like I'm supposed to say the number 3 receiver because that's like our cliche over the past few years, pretty much ever since I've been on the beat. Who's going to be the number 3 receiver? But I'll start at the top with just what this offense looks like when they line up. They're obviously tight end heavy the last couple of years, and I remember watching training camp. It might have even been some OTAs, but definitely training camp. A lot of fullback on the field last year. And I don't know if that was, who knows why that was. Maybe they were just doing that when we were there. And we just happened to see every single play they had for fullbacks on the field. You know, it was Andy Janovich and Johnny Stan just rotating at fullback. And it didn't really turn out that way. So what you do see at OTAs isn't always the best indicator, or what you see at training camp, or at least what we see isn't always the best indicator. But I think everybody's going to be kind of tracking, how many tight ends are they using? How often? Is Njoku out there by himself a lot? Do they have 3 wide receivers a lot? Because every indication seems to be that they're going to adapt this year to things that Deshaun Watson does. And that might not necessarily be the things that Baker Mayfield did. And, I'm anticipating a lot of 2 tight ends, a lot more wide receivers on the field. So that's one of the things I'll be kind of tracking, because I think this is really the first time we're going to see those guys on the field lined up like an offense, and we'll just kind of go from here.
All right, Ashley, why don't you give us another thing to watch here over these next few weeks?
Yeah, I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball with something that we've talked about a lot lately, in particular in regards to Martin Emerson these last few weeks. And I'm just curious to see what it looks like, who is all getting reps in that slot corner position with no Troy Hill anymore. How much is Greg Newsome going to work in there? How much is Martin Emerson going to work there? I'll shout out to Doug. Will AJ Green get some looks? Where's he going to fit in on this defense, if at all? What are his reps going to look like? I'm just curious to see like the first initial glimpses of what it looks like. And quite honestly, like to zero in a little more, like how Martin Emerson is actually going to look out there with some vets, because like we said, he stood out when we were at rookie minicamp, but the next step is kind of getting those guys in with the veterans and seeing what they look like. So I'm really curious to see what his role is going to be, and just in general, who plays in that slot defensively there.
I'm just curious what you're going to watch with Deshaun Watson. Because obviously, look, the quarterback can't get hit. A lot of this stuff is going to be scripted. They can do 11 on 11 in this phase, but it's not going to be, you can't tackle to the ground, all of that stuff. So it's going to be very light contact. But, for me with Deshaun, one of the things I really just want to watch is sort of the non-football stuff, like I guess that has double meaning in the case of Deshaun Watson, but I just mean the between play stuff, like how's he working with his receivers? How's he interacting with his teammates? Just little stuff like that to see how teammates are responding to him. Obviously, I'm not expecting anything terrible. I just want to see how he works with people. I thought one of the things that I thought Baker Mayfield actually did well in the last year was he would take that time between reps, and he would talk to Jarvis Landry and talk to Odell Beckham, and he'd go through things with players and they'd rep things. Him and Austin Hooper did it a lot. It didn't translate to the field for various reasons, but I just want to see sort of all those interactions between plays with Deshaun Watson and kind of see what his approach is, I guess, as the face of the franchise and the quarterback of this football team. What are you guys watching with Deshaun over these next 3 or 4 weeks?
For me, it's just like how decisive he is, and because sometimes when you're at this stage of the year and if you have a new offense or a new coach or whatever, you're still learning everything, trying to get a gauge of where he might be with that. And again, sometimes a drill is just about going through progressions and you're going to hold on to the ball. And a lot of these things are just walkthroughs. Sometimes they don't even throw the ball, but when they do, how quick is it coming out? Does he know exactly where he's going? Stuff like that. not to read too much into it, but I think that's something I'm looking for, just to try and figure out if it seems like he's where he should be. And I'm sure Stefanski will probably talk about that as well. And even Deshaun.
Yeah, like you said, Dan, I feel like it's so hard when you're not getting like the full picture of contact or anything like that. But I think for me, it's like we've talked so much about some of these returning receivers and a guy like DPJ, for example, who in theory were like, maybe they look a lot better with Deshaun Watson throwing them the ball than they did last year when Baker Mayfield was. So again, that's like kind of dependent on attendance, even just, and there's not that full speed action happening, but it is going to be like kind of our first glimpse just at how well he connects with these receivers, how him and Amari Cooper connect. And again, all of this is not going to be like your typical game speed, contact, all that stuff, but it is just kind of a glimpse into what could be these next few weeks, especially.